Jim had just closed the deal of a lifetime. A multi-million-dollar mansion that had been too tough to sell had finally found a buyer, and with it, a really happy real estate agent. Jim was unable to take his eyes off his commission check, but he knew he had to. After all, it was time to celebrate. He opened the 35-year-old Glen McKenna he had kept hidden in his cupboard and called in his pals for the celebration. As the party went on, they lost their sense of time and the fact that the three of them had just finished off an $1,800 bottle of scotch. But it did not matter. He could buy an entire warehouse with the commission he had just earned. Jim chuckled. He said goodbye to the boys and tottered his way back to the elevator. As he got in, he noticed he could barely make out the numbers. He wasn't unfamiliar with drinking, but tonight had just been a little too much. He finally managed to focus his eyes on the ground floor button and pressed it. It started moving downward from the 20th floor, but jolted to a halt, sending Jim falling to the rear wall. Bloody hell, elevator. Why don't they get this junk fixed? He mumbled. He glanced at the panel and pressed the ground floor button again and again, but nothing happened. He was stopped on the 14th floor, which, in reality, was the 13th. But as was the mumbo-jumbo norm, it was renumbered as the 14th. He picked up the phone and called the emergency number. Hi, I'm stuck on the 14th floor. Could you send someone to fix this damn thing?
Sure thing, Mr. Henderson. Right away, Mr. Henderson.
Hissed the voice on the other end. The voice gave Jim chills. It sounded as if it was coming from far away, as if he weren't talking on the phone, but on an old ham radio with faulty transmission. The elevator doors opened just as the call ended to a dark, desolate floor, which was odd given the accounts team who sat there usually worked till much later than him. He stumbled forward, looking for someone to help. Hello? Hello? His voice echoed through the empty hallways. Anybody there? The lift got stuck. Thought I'd use the comms to call. Hearing no response, Jim turned on the flashlight and proceeded onto the floor. All the equipment was caked in dust, cobwebs everywhere. It was as if no one had been there in years. He walked forward, the sound of his footsteps echoing, followed by the echo of another pair of footsteps. Hello? He shouted, trying to find the other person there with him. He kept walking and hearing his footsteps followed by the sound of the other person's feet, but quickly realized that the second sound was coming from behind him. Fear gripped his mind as he turned the corner and started pacing back towards the elevator. Jim smashed the button, hoping for it to open, reluctant to turn around. Come on. The elevator heard his plea and opened. He stepped inside and turned to face a woman in a white dress with skin that had turned grey. Her eye socket stared back at him. She let out a low wail and grabbed his tie, pulling him towards her as he frantically pressed the ground floor button. Firmly pressing his hands against the walls of the elevator, Jim pushed himself backwards, trying to free himself from the apparition's clutches. The doors, to his relief, closed, and he was sent flying backwards as the apparition disappeared. The elevator finally whirred to life after a few moments of stillness and proceeded with its downward descent. After what felt like an eternity, it hit the ground floor. The doors opened. No! Shouted Jim in utter disbelief. The floor lay vacant, dust and debris everywhere he looked. Cobwebs layered upon cobwebs. Jim fell to the ground of the elevator sobbing. He wanted this nightmare to end. And as he lay there, hoping for a way out, trying to wake himself up, something brushed up against his leg. He looked down to see a long black wisp wrapping around his leg. The wisp tightened its grip and pulled a screaming Jim into the empty darkness.